Welcome to episode 10 of A New Way to Love, Live, and Lead. I'm your host, Shireen Blum, a master coach, author, speaker, and the founder of the Self-Mastery Hub, your online platform for self-inquiry, healing, and growth. This podcast is here to remind you midlife isn't a crisis, it's a climax. Each week, we'll explore how to break old patterns, build authentic confidence, and live with intention so you can thrive in this powerful new chapter of your life. Today, I am so excited for this episode because today is all about authenticity. And here's the truth. Authenticity is one of the most radical acts of self-love and one of the most powerful medicines for healing in midlife. Yet for so many of us, it doesn't come naturally. Why? Because for decades, we've been taught to perform, to please, to fit in, to seek validation, to measure ourselves against what others think we should be. But midlife is your chance to come home to yourself, to let go of who you think you should be, and finally embrace who you really are. And I want to take you back to my own story, one that I shared in episode 1. For much of my younger life, I didn't believe in myself. I doubted my worth. I craved validation, approval, and belonging. And that craving led me into that people-pleasing and codependency and self-abandonment. I twisted myself into knots to be who I thought others wanted me to be. I tried to keep the peace, fit in, and prove I was lovable. Most of the time, I felt like a pretzel or that life was me doing some crazy yoga pose. I became like a chameleon, able to blend in, adapt, and perform in almost any environment. In fact, I thought one of my greatest strengths was my ability to adapt. But the cost was enormous. I felt anxious, exhausted, disconnected, and deeply unseen a lot of the time. Because the real me was hidden underneath it all. So many of these adaptations came from what I now call the terms and conditions of our self-worth. This is an inner contract we subconsciously create very early in childhood, a kind of unwritten rule book that defines how and when we are worthy. And sadly, it's not based on unconditional self-love. It's conditional. It's based on moments when we were validated, recognized, praised, or accepted by others. It follows the law of cause and effect. If I'm beautiful, then I am loved. If I'm successful, then I'm worthy. If I have financial freedom, then I have proven my worth. And these statements become deeply conditioned and influence a huge part of our persona. For me, I created an I am ugly story, very young, all because of my frizzy hair, what I thought was my awkward looks. I remember thinking as a child that I was cursed with this hair. I dreamt of having long, smooth, glossy locks, the kind you see celebrated in magazines. But in the eyes of mainstream beauty, I felt like I didn't measure up. And so to compensate, I doubled down on being the good girl, the high achiever, the perfectionist, the controller. It was exhausting. I wasn't just embarrassed by my unique qualities. I was hiding them. My healing journey has been about peeling those layers back, letting go of people-pleasing and needing others to validate my worth, releasing codependency, no longer seeking validation as my lifeline, and learning to own my quirks, my voice, and my uniqueness. And through that journey, I discovered a simple recipe for self-love. Accept myself, frizz and all, believe in myself, focusing on my strengths and the energy that I bring to people, and respect myself. Set boundaries, speak up, and care for my well-being. When I began living by those three commitments, acceptance, belief, and respect, I finally stepped into authenticity. And authenticity has become the foundation of my healing, my relationships, my confidence, and my joy. It is the return to my essence, to the return to me. And authenticity is healing and so powerful in midlife. Authenticity ends self-abandonment. Every time you betray your truth to please others, you reinforce the belief that you're not enough. Living authentically rewires that story. Authenticity builds self-trust. When you speak your truth, even if your voice shakes, you prove to yourself that your needs and your voice matters. That builds trust in yourself. Authenticity fuels connection. Ironically, when you stop pretending to be who others want you to be, you create deeper, truer relationships because people connect to your essence, not your performance. And here's a powerful reframe. Authenticity isn't selfish. It's service. Because when you live authentically, you give others permission to do the same. And here are 3 steps to authentic living. As always, the first one is awareness. It always starts with awareness. When we are not aware, when we are not being consciously aware and we're in default mode, we react from old fear patterns, the people-pleasing, approval-seeking, codependency. All of that keeps us stuck. But when we shift into authenticity, we notice when we're abandoning ourselves and we ask ourselves, am I acting from fear or is this my truth? Such a powerful self-coaching question. The second step is acceptance. In default mode, we judge ourselves for not being perfect or enough, like I shared with you earlier. We're judging ourselves and stuck in our contract and the T's and C's of this contract, we will never measure up to them. And the shift when we accept ourselves is to embrace our quirks, our uniqueness and imperfections, as that's what makes us human and lovable. It's actually those quirks that people love the most in us. It's so ironic, but true. And the last is alignment. When we are out of alignment, we are living by external expectations. But the shift here is that we align our choices with our values. We live by design, not default. And like I mentioned a couple episodes ago in episode 7, this is all about intentional living. And when we are intentional, we become more authentic. And so authenticity is made up of awareness, acceptance, and alignment. A really simple AAA recipe for you to click back into authenticity. And my reflection question for you today is to ask yourself, where in my life am I still hiding, performing, or people-pleasing? And what would it look like to show up as my authentic self instead? And here's what I'd love you to remember from this episode. Authenticity is not about perfection. It's about truth. It's not even about worthiness. It's about being your truth. Midlife is your chance to stop performing and start becoming. It's too exhausting to keep the performance going. Let it go. Step into your intention and allow yourself to continue to become the truest version of you. and accept yourself. Believe in yourself. Respect yourself. That's the foundation of self-love and authenticity. And it may be helpful, if you haven't done so already, to do the hidden people pleaser persona quiz to identify your control pattern and where you may be slipping back into people-pleasing patterns. There are 5 common personas you might recognize in yourself: the good girl or the good boy, avoiding conflict and trying to be perfect to be loved; the fixer or the helper, who takes responsibility for everyone else's problems; the chameleon, who adapts and shape-shifts to fit in, losing touch with their true self; the achiever, who ties worth to accomplishments, always proving and never resting; or the peacekeeper, who swallows their truth to keep harmony at all costs. When you discover your default persona, you gain the awareness that's needed to help you shift back into authenticity. And you will also get a one-sheet that will summarize this pattern for you so you can keep coming back to it and really, really catching yourself when you are noticing yourself back in the pattern. Because this is all about you having power over your pattern and connecting with your presence rather than being stuck in proving yourself continuously. We are tearing up the terms and conditions of the self-worth. So you can grab the link to that quiz in the show notes for this episode. And if this episode inspired you, please follow, rate, and share it with a friend who's ready to embrace their authentic self. Thanks for joining me on a new way to love, live, and lead. And remember, you're not too late. You're right on time. And your most powerful, authentic chapter begins right now.